of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the king of podcasts.
And welcome. This is the 5th anniversary show of the Broadcasters Podcast. At Broadcasters Podcast, originally was .com, but now it's kingofpodcasts.com, which is where all of my content is. One place, kingofpodcasts.com. And if you haven't done so, please make sure to subscribe on the YouTube feed at King of Podcasts. Just look for that and you'll find it. So yeah, next week would be officially the 5th anniversary of the show because the series actually began January 6, 2018. But I didn't want to go ahead and take a chance that maybe something will happen next week, that media will start getting picked back up, and you know what? The headlines will be coming, and I need to go ahead and make sure I have everything free and clear, a clear ramp to go ahead and do content. So that's one of the things I had to go and think about first off. But I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of comprehensive when it comes to the 5-year change that has happened since I started the program. We didn't have all this, TG streaming that we had, like we do right now. We had some of it. We had Netflix and, Amazon Prime, but we really didn't get all the networks and all these big major media companies all coming in one shot because of the pandemic to make a complete change of it. And, we can go through a lot of things that this program's done. I mean, when I first started the series, I did hundreds of interviews with some really great people on the program. And I don't want to go ahead and downplay any of that, but that was something I did for a long time on the program. Cinematographers, people that worked in audio, actors, actresses, social media influencers, radio types, journalists. We worked on so much. I mean, it was really great to do all those interviews, but it was one of those things that when I first started the program, I wanted to be able to have that as I was working my way to go ahead and really get myself into the mix of being a media commentator on all media and have something good to say and how I feel comfortable saying it. Because when I did this program, I had already been doing my wrestling program for 7 years and I was very comfortable with it. And I was like, I want to go ahead and add a second podcast. And this was it. Originally, I called it Creative Not Corporate. Wasn't the best name. But the reason I called it that was because the digital disruption that we go on right now with media, and the areas I like to cover the most are music, movies, TV, and radio. Not in that particular order. But the thing is that the digital disruption that we go with on a regular basis, it is a battle between those being creative and those that are not able to under a corporate banner. And we see the difference. Now, we can define it in many different ways. What is grassroots? What is very creative and independent and not beholden to any major corporate ties? Then there is the mainstream, which is what is corporate, which is big exposure, big owners, big everything. Things are getting reversed back to where things were, we used to have smaller outlying broadcasters. Okay, we had those in television and radio. And for music, we had record labels who were smaller and they would distribute to somebody bigger. There was a system in place where we actually had smaller operators working with the distributors, of which they were probably corporate or somebody much bigger. And then they, in turn, would help to push out content. And it would be a crossover effort. It works not just it doesn't just work in music, but it also worked in radio. Radio as a catalyst for it. It worked for movies when independent movies became so critically acclaimed and successful, or just were able to go and break through the mainstream, break into the mainstream, and television the same way. When you talk about the actors, the actresses, the artists, the musicians, everybody that's been involved and integral and be able to go ahead and break into new fields of the media. But when the traditional media environment changed, when deregulation ultimately changed, that was a response to what happened in 1996. And of course, if you know on this program, that is when the digital disruption began to lay claim because of deregulation of the media in the United States. When all the corporations can start buying from each other, and we can see merger after merger after merger. Remember, this program has been here for the Disney-Fox merger, for the Warner Brothers Discovery merger, for the now the soon Warner Brothers Paramount merger, which we talked about last week. And then seeing all the changes where the pandemic, when we saw what it did to affect all the major aspects of traditional commercial mainstream media, that they were weakened because they couldn't do production like they normally do. And the stars and the actors and actresses they have on, they couldn't put them at risk. Meanwhile, social media, the internet, has taken a shape. And now you have broadcasters out there and broadcast outlets like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Meanwhile, we have content creators that are also their own broadcasters, casting the net to a broad audience. The broadcast aspect, coining the term of someone being a broadcaster. That is why I use that term instead, and that's why I renamed the show the Broadcasters Podcast, because for me, it made more sense that way. Because of the fact that we are casting a broad net and getting our content to the masses, whether it's music, whether it's a movie screenplay, whether it's a TV script, or it's a radio show. We want to reach a large audience. We're reaching an audience. It could be a smaller audience, but it's a broadcasting to others. And some companies and some people do it differently. Of course, there's everybody that wants to do a cash grab, because there's people that want to do this and make it a career, because it would be so wonderful to have the best of both. Enjoy something that you love to do in the broadcasting field and make money on it. But I came from the field where I knew that when it came to radio, which is my first love, if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I was still very much a proponent of radio. I still would listen to it. I still gave it a chance. But already by that point, I was streaming. I wasn't listening to the AM FM band because, my car had changed. And really what happened was, you know what it was? When I couldn't listen to certain radio stations, when I couldn't listen to radio in my car and it didn't sound good. Like, it really was as simple as that. And so back in 2009, I had to let go of a 2005 Pontiac Vibe. And in that car, I had a wonderful sound system in there. It was a Boston Acoustics, I think it was. And it was this package that was allowed with this, hatchback, this kind of station wagon hatchback hybrid. That car had what was called Moon and Tunes package. So the moonroof and an amazing 160 to a 200 watt sound system. And it sounded wonderful. Even before that, I had a subwoofer in my truck, a Chevy S10 pickup, and I put it back in there. And then I think about the fact that I always wanted to have a good sound to my car, because I always wanted to make sure that, the radio stations, while they're being programmed and they're being processed, they don't really come out sounding that well. And in most vehicles, for a while, the radios and the way they sounded didn't sound that good. And me back in the day using third-party, apparatuses. So using a new deck or using subwoofers or woofers or using just an amplifier and doing it like the old days, third party, and getting somebody to go ahead and install a new stereo system in my car. New car stereo. We used to spend some real money on that. It's not like that anymore, because the car manufacturers have stepped up. Their radios are much better made. They're not worrying so much about, they're not worrying about CDs anymore. They know that you need to have a Bluetooth connection, so you can go ahead and connect yourself to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And then you want to make sure you can have your setup for the music, whether it's coming from the radio or it's coming from your phone, whatever it might be. It's all changed. The internet has obviously been beneficial to a user like myself, first and foremost, because when I think of the opportunities and all the different options I have of what to watch, what to hear, and what to read, it's incredible. I mean, audiobooks need to be included in that list as well. But we have all that. And when you see the players that are out there that are most prominent and important, and you see the damage that has been done to traditional media, I mean, gone are the networks that, if it's not live sports, you're not going to get programming that's going to get 25, 30 million viewers a night. It's not going to happen. Like the days of the big mass audience all watching at the same time, appointment viewing, it's only sports, nothing else. And when you could go ahead and get that big of an audience and get the advertising on board to really push out there, the only thing that you have right now that really gets the real push is the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl still consistently plays out. 110 million viewers last year, constantly growing. And 3.5 hours, 4 hours, if you want to count the pre-games, more than that. A whole Sunday to plug, and put advertising out there. And the Super Bowl, they're good at having, like, here's new movie trailers, here's new other things going on. Live sports does it. But the big media broadcasters, okay, traditional media, they failed to realize that while this was all going on, okay, they were being threatened by the change that digital, that online, that internet was going to be doing, and has been doing it for the last 5 years. And I've been reporting it all in this program. The digital disruption, that's what I call it. It's the best way to describe it. The digital disruption has continued the erosion of traditional media. Remember, networks don't make anywhere close to the audience they used to get. Not even close. I mean, network TV is nothing like it used to be. Nothing. When you think about that, the most watched networks is 2023. Okay? We're getting that information right now as we're talking about it. And then there's other things that are going on where Nielsen is going on and giving us that information. So, what we have right now, nearly every cable network, large and small, now mostly program marathons of the most popular shows. They're basically becoming what the fast streaming channels are. The free channels that you see on, like, on Tubi or Pluto or Amazon Prime Video, like, it's what's going on right now. So they're talking about the fact that, okay, here's all the Paramount-owned cable channels. Ridiculousness plays on MTV a lot. Disney Channel runs a lot of Big City Greens. Nick Jr. There's a lot of Paw Patrol. Air Swim telecasts Bob's Burgers and American Dad. Nick at Night runs a lot of Friends. And Variety.com reports about how that as basic cable gets zombified, the double-digit declines that continue. Live sports is saving the broadcast networks and some cable networks still in that game. But there's the interesting case of the diginets, managing to keep the decline small as they program a wider range of nostalgia fare to aging adults. Right, they're like newspapers. Now, when they talk about the networks, NBC led the year in total viewers over CBS with 4.5 million viewers. That's anemic. Some of these networks used to get 50 million viewers in some of their content. 4.54 million viewers on average. Fox was third place, but did get help from the Super Bowl. It's really just, it's horrible. And here's what we got as the real winners of cable television right now. Reel's channel, because now they have a show called On Patrol Live, which was originally the live PD show. And it went up 34% in total viewers because they're running, cops in real time. Grit is the fastest growing broadcast TV channel. It shows Western movies, TV shows like Death Valley Days, The Lone Ranger, but they're all 60 years old. And It's the dwindling world of linear TV. So the aging audience, play up to them. Grid is passed over the CW as the ninth most watched broadcast network. When it comes to the news lineups, the news cable channels, right, the 24-hour channels, CNN and Fox News both registered 20% declines this year. MSNBC had a 2% uptick. Newsmax is up 22%. But what they're doing is they're basically just getting the same pot of people that would watch political and news content, and they're just kind of switching around. That's why there's all those changes. Because Fox News made some changes to the lineup, and then that eroded some of their lineup to other channels. MSNBC doesn't make much of a difference because of what they do. CNN's continue to make changes, which are not really helping. And the losers talk about is HBO and their linear premium cable counterparts. So the pay TV channels of HBO, for instance, down 34% among viewers, but part of that is because they're going to Max. You know, remember, all their premium content, the best content, doesn't get started on HBO. It goes on to Max. Showtime's down 25%. And now they're going to have Paramount, have the name on their channel. And Showtime's going away as a name. Star's down 31%. That's a shame because Power's doing so well. The Power universe, anyway. And also, the kids' TV business on network TV is also dropping. So 10 years ago, Disney Channel was a top 10 network with 2 million viewers watching that channel regularly. Now, it averages 132,000 viewers. It's the 80th most watched network. And the rest of the kids-related channels, Nickelodeon down 34%, Disney Channel 26%, Disney Junior 27% down, Nick Jr. 34%, Cartoon Network 19%. So they're not only not watching linear TV, they're not watching in primetime either. And that's it. Paramount Network. The one show that really holds up for them that gets people watching is Yellowstone. Otherwise, there's nothing else. So the most watched TV networks right now, as we said, NBC is 4.537 million viewers, down 12%. CBS, ABC, Fox, and we're including the cable channels. Univision, down 4%. They're really, all these channels are down, constantly going down. It's pathetic. TBS down 10%. TNT down 3%. HGTV down 13%. People are just getting rid of cable, and people are just not wanting to watch programming on a schedule. They don't want that anymore. They can just watch what they want to watch. That's what they prefer. USA Network down 7%. Food Network 14% down. Investigations Discovery, so like the cold case stuff, down 4%. TV Land down 10%. CW down 21%. Lifetime 25%. A&E's way down 15%. FX down 16%. Remember, and some of these is because the digital is on somewhere else. So you can find their content. A&E has their own digital streaming. A&E Plus, or AMC Plus, excuse me, right? A&E is down 15%. I didn't see AMC. AMC is down 21%. Okay. Paramount Network down 30%. And we can go along down the line of all these channels just dropping apart. Fox Sports 1 is up 13%. Sports, MTV down 11%. And by the way, some of these channels you're seeing right now, if you see the list, these cable channels are all in the 200 to 300,000 viewer range. It's pathetic. If we keep going down, some of the channels that are on here that really have no audience whatsoever. It's bad. But that's where things are. Like on the very bottom, it's just, they show a list of 145 some odd stations, and they're all doing really bad. But everybody's down. All of it. Every bit of it. And you know what's the most popular show right now in television? Of any TV show? Suits on Netflix. So if you just look at a combined look at what their audience has been since June of 2023 to September. Audiences watched more than 36.8 billion minutes of the legal dramedy. It was the number one streaming title on Netflix and Peacock. Suits. A show that was on between 2011 and 2019. Okay, 4-year-old show. People are treating it like it's new. And that's part of the fact that there was not a lot of new content out there. So people were just binge watching old content. I'm not, because I watched that show when it happened. But that's also the quality of the shows that we had. Remember that too. Top streaming titles overall this year. Netflix had the top 10 of original content, which included Outer Banks, The Night Agent, Jenny in Georgia, Virgin River, and Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. Among the movies in streaming, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. Well, that was because of the fact that it was also on the theaters first, and then it got over to streaming. And then Disney Plus holds the next 4 spots with all movies that they had out in theaters, and that got pushed over to streaming. You People on Netflix also got on that list. Then Little Mermaid and Elemental also made the list again for Disney. And that's everything. Now, of the largest programs of the year, single telecast, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade had 22 million viewers. Oscars, 19 million. That used to be a lot more back in the day. Next Level Chef, and that was the day of the Super Bowl broadcast, 16 million. Grammy Awards, 13 million. And there were several 60 Minutes episodes that were 12 million. One Fire Country episode had 12 million. NCIS Hawaii, one day in January, had 11.2 million. These are probably all shows that were featured after football. My guess is. Fox is Accused, a new series that was right after football, 10 million viewers. But that's it. And these are not shows that are doing that well right now. Of the series, NCIS is still the number one show right now in broadcast television. Under 10 million viewers. CBS actually holds the top 5 shows. FBI, 9.4. Young Sheldon is 9.3. Blue Bloods, 9.3. Night Court is the top comedy in network TV, 9.125. Chicago Fire, Ghosts, and Fire Country. Those are the shows. And that's it. Among the cable programming, that's all different. There's State of the Union. There's Republican debates. I have an episode of Yellowstone. Their January 1st episode got 11.4 million viewers. Among series on cable, Hallmark Channel. When Calls the Heart is the most watched show on cable this year. 1.7 million. 1923 on Paramount, 1.3 million. And also the other shows of Yellowstone broke over 1 million viewers. Other than that, Hallmark Channel has 3 of the top 7. Incredible. Remember the kind of shows we used to have on cable and network TV that used to be just, gangbusters. It's all gone. The fact that all these shows are not pulling up any audiences right now at all is a very telling sign. But where are people really watching? They're going on the social media. They're going on the YouTube. They're going to everywhere else. I mean, what else are you going to do? When you look at the stats that you've already done, YouTube currently, second biggest social media in the world, 2.7 billion active users. Facebook is only the one that's bigger than them at 2.9 billion. And 4.9 billion active users, social media users worldwide. That's crazy. But YouTube has so much content there. Instagram, 2.3 billion. TikTok, 1.06 billion. And Snapchat, 750 million users. We can go to others that are on here. Twitter, 450 million users. But all this is going to go more. YouTube users consume 1 billion hours worth of video every day. 5 billion videos every day. A typical user goes and spends at least 20 minutes and 23 seconds on YouTube. And YouTube has more than 800 million videos on the platform. 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. And 87%, almost 88% of YouTube views come from a mobile device. The Android app has more than 10 billion downloads to date. And that YouTube also, that 450 million hours of content are viewed on smart TVs. When it's accessible and it's easy to get to. And also, let's look at the age and the user and age group. Let's look at that as well. Males dominate 53.9% to 46.1% globally. Now here's your targeted ad audience. Why do you think YouTube has so many ads on it? Well, here you go. Check this out. As complete users, 25 to 34, 20% of their audience, 25 to 34, 16.5%, 35 to 44, 18 to 24, 14.5%. Put that together. The 25 to 54 demographic, which we always talk about, is the target demographic of television, of cable, of radio. That makes up, what, 48% of their audience? Plus the younger audience, an extra, it goes to 62. Again, the older audience will consume about, what, 18% of the audience? And that's it. That's a lot. And then there are also particular channels on YouTube and what they do. The T Series, 247 million subscribers. Mr. Beast, 176 million. PewDiePie, 111. The WWE YouTube channel, 96.7 million viewers. Or subscribers, excuse me. Subscribers. Among others. And you think about this, like, you know, the audience that's out there and people are just trying to watch content, and there's no way for traditional TV to match up with this. Movies are a different story, because I think while we still have an issue with the movies when it comes to like people wanting to go watch the movies at a theater versus watching at home, when I look at the numbers for this year, I mean, the numbers did get better in terms of movies, in terms of what people were watching. But overall, you know, pandemic really did take a dent to movies, which is unfortunate. Because 2019 was a great year for movies and how many millions of dollars they were making. But this time around, it's kind of struggling, right? The annual box office right now, as of 2023, altogether, overall this year, $8.7 billion. 831 million tickets sold. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. If I wanted to go to the start of this program when I first got on here, let's do 2018. At that time, box office gross, also just for inflation, $11.9 billion. And 1.3 million tickets sold. And you look at the changes of the kind of movies that we had out there, we still had a plethora of major movies that were going on, right? I mean, listen, Avengers Infinity War had come out that year. Black Panther came out that year. The gross just domestically, $700 million and $678 million for Avengers. Remember, and it was all in 2018. The complete gamut of movies were controlled by superhero movies. This is the top grossing movies of 2018. Just to give you that example. So Black Panther, $700 million. Then Avengers, $678. Incredibles 2, $608. These are all Disney movies, right? Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, $472 million. Deadpool 2, Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Mission Impossible Fallout, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Solo, a Star Wars Story. They all broke a $200 million mark domestically. All actions and adventures. So the big budget, big box office movies were going on there. And when you look at some of the other movies that we had, Ready Player One came out that year, Pacific Rim Uprising, you know, Crazy Rich Asians, you know, broke the mainstream, into the mainstream out of a major book, and that did well. Then you had Venom, and you had Bohemian Rhapsody, and Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 3D, and the first Aquaman, among the movies that we had coming out that year that really just took out and made a big difference. But, it was the difference that we had. This year, 5 years later, much different story. Because we also see the downfall of the superhero movies, the cash cow, that rehashing, regurgitation of intellectual property that all these big media companies decided to do. And they did less. Barbie, by far the most grossing movie of the year, $636 million. Super Mario Brothers movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Oppenheimer. So we get movies that are changing up things here. A comedy being the first, one comedy, being the number one movie of the year. Amazing. Little Mermaid, underperforming movie, but one of the top 10. Avatar: The Way to Water. And that's also going back from December of last year. So, you're also just kind of going up against that. Ant-Man and the Wasp, an underperforming Disney movie, Marvel movie, $214 million this time around. John Wick Chapter 4 and Sound of Freedom. Independent movie. Breaks the top 10. Breaks the top 10. And overall, that movie right now did break $250 million worldwide. And I think it was off a $14 million budget. So the change can happen. I mean, you can see what movies are coming out that are a big difference. But you know what? Of the movies that I saw this year, there were still some that, did stand out to me that I really did enjoy. If I go farther down the list, of course we had some movies that were just abysmal and should have never been made. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny shouldn't have been done. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, that was good. Transformers: Rise of the Beast, it's fine. Creed 3, that was okay. Elemental did not do well. Did not do that well for Disney. Disney has a lot of movies on the bottom end that did not do well at all. Or they just underperformed. Fast X, $145 million. Five Nights at Freddy's, Universal, but also a brand new franchise, $137 million. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they brought it back again. How many more times can they do it in 30 years? But here we go. Scream 6, The Flash, I'm guessing they should have probably got that thing to be $300 million, I guess, or something like that. Only made $108 million domestic. The DC universe really took a wash, an absolute wash this year. Because overall for them, $266 million worldwide. Pathetic. And I think it was $200 million production budget. Ouch. They're not making their money back. They're not making their money back right now. And let's go and move along to the other movies that we have here. Okay, Wonka, which is recently new, did break $100 million domestic. Equalizer 3, $192 million. The Marvels. Here's another one that they put a lot of money in, and it did not do well. Had not even broken $200 million. The production budget, $275 million. Wow. They're not even breaking $200 million. It was $275. Was this a movie that people wanted to watch? Could you have told a better story? What else is there to do? Is there a fatigue in superhero movies? Possibly. But that right there is really telling. It's just a telling sign. Not good. Moving along. Of the other movies, and let me go back to Ant-Man and the Wasp, all right? This movie also did not pull well. $463 million. So it did break, and the production budget was $200 million. So it probably made its money back, but not much. And by the way, let me look at the other movies. Okay, so Barbie and Oppenheimer, I want to look at that because that was the real phenomenon this year. $1.4 billion right now for Barbie worldwide. $151 million budget. That's a breakaway hit. Number one movie of the year. It earned it. It got it. Good for them. Good for Greta Gerwig. Good for Margot Robbie. Good for everyone that was a part of that project. Good on them. Especially not to mention the merchandise, the music soundtrack. Mattel must be rolling in it that they did so well with that movie. And of course, they have other projects they're planning to do the same thing with. The Scream franchise continues to go on, but now we know there's changes of that casting that's going on. $168 million on a $35 million budget. There you go. When you get movies that can still pull something, but it's like, it's the ones that got brought out here, and there's something to be said about how bad they performed. Blue Beetle, another DC movie, $128 million. That's it. Production budget, $120 million. It's a bomb. It's a bomb. It didn't even come. It barely even broke even. It didn't even break even. It's like, it's bad. Now what do you do next? Not much you can do. Like it's not gonna make all his money back. It struggled this year. The DC universe is in a horrible place. Killers of the Flower Moon, $156 million box office. Production budget was $200 million. So yes, Scorsese put out a good movie. I liked it, but did not make the money back. It struggled. It struggled heavily. I also think it's both about the time of year too. And some of even the smaller movies that they had in here that actually really did well, surprisingly. Cocaine Bear at the start of the year, back in February. $64 million domestic, $89 million worldwide. And the budget was, it doesn't show the budget. Oh. I can look at the production budget. It didn't show me that. That sucks. $30 to $35 million. It didn't do bad. It made its money back, but it was just, quite a very interesting choice of a movie to have. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, one of the most underwhelming and poorly put together sequels ever. $132 million. Production budget, $125. Bomb. Just bad. Horrible. And then, what was there? Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom right now, currently it's in its place, $52 million. And if I look at what their production budget is now and what they're hoping to go and get off of this, $205 million budget. $132 million so far. It's not going to make that money. It's not. But there's a lot of movies like that. All this year. And some of those that put together that just are not going to make their money back. But it's like, it's what they do. And it's unfortunate. There were some good movies this year that did not make it that high up. Dumb Money was a good movie I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Expendables, the fourth one. Oh, they shouldn't have made that. Ooh. Oh, boy, that was really cheaply done. $51 million worldwide box office. Production budget, $100 million. Ouch, that's a big, fat bomb. But yeah, it's the kind of things we had. And then there was some other movies that also just really on the bottom of this list that just should not have been put together. Like Bottoms. That's another one that's like, okay. And that movie did not do well. $12 million worldwide. I don't have the budget on that. Well, but it's also a very small budget movie anyway. And then I try to look at what else is in here that also just really just did badly. And I'm looking to see if there's anything else I have here that was on this list that Mafia Mama. Oh my God, that was a mistake. Bleecker Street put that out. $7 million total. It doesn't show the budget, but I guarantee the budget was way too much for this movie. What a mistake. Who thought this was a good idea to put this movie out with Tony Collette? Must have been horrible. $41 million. Wow. Some of the decisions on some of the movies that are being put out are poor. And the idea of some other movies coming out and putting themselves out there, also just not good of what they decide they're going to put out. I mean, there's better movies to be put out. And I think there's just some that, that don't get the chance to be greenlit and brought out because the theaters are trying to just cash in on some intellectual property of theirs that is not doing well. I mean, right now, a lot of room that those superhero movies are leaving behind, that are they worth it? And for Disney, some of those Pixar related or animated features they have also bombing this year. Like, are they going to want to keep doing that? That might be a really big mistake for them. But the movie's been hurt because, You also look at the fact that people would prefer to go and watch, to me, some mid-level movies going on Netflix or on Amazon Prime or whatever, right? Well, Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus is a different story because of the fact that you are catching movies that are being put out and given the chance to go out in the theaters first to give some real weight and value to them and then switch them over. Okay? When it came to the holdovers or Killers of the Flower Moon or Air or Creed 3, those are some of the examples I have of movies that switched over pretty quickly over to theaters. And also there were some that were actually in theaters and also got switched over. Five Nights at Freddy's was originally a Peacock feature. And I forget what other ones were Peacock as well. Halloween, I think it was, right? So like all these movies that came about and they were brought on and like, okay, short window, but they're going to theaters first. Let's put our money where our mouth is and then switch them over to streaming and then get the subscriptions and all that from there. But then where's the money they're supposed to get? Like the thing is that some movies don't get the chance to go out on a theatrical run where they can make some big money on exhibition and then go to streaming. Some just go straight to streaming and they might have a big budget, but might not be good and they're not going to make it through. Like Netflix, people are accustomed to it's like this, okay? I used to go to a Blockbuster Video, or even before that, the video stores that were small time. You know, you would go find some movies that would be in the store and you would go ahead and say to yourself, okay, if I'm watching it for free and it's like available for me to watch right now, or I got to pay for it. Okay, Blockbuster was like, okay, I'm putting $4, $5, $6 down on a DVD or a VCR or VHS at the thing to get a movie here, and I'm going to watch it. I'm going to invest my money into it and take it home. But then you have the part where the movie theaters, oh yeah, $13, $15 you're paying for a ticket now? And that's the real risk. It's like, okay, how good is this movie I'm going to go watch? And am I going to put $13 down? Now, for me, it doesn't matter because I'm a subscription holder. So, I mean, I pay $20 a month. I've watched 60 movies this year. So I'll have done more than my share, 5 movies a month at $20 a pop. I'm doing pretty good on that. But I'm saying to myself, of the movies that I saw this year, how many of them would I have watched if I didn't have the subscription? About a third of those. Feasibly. Because there were some movies like, Blue Beetle and The Flash and, Aquaman. They were not necessarily on my radar this year. If I was going to go and pay money for it, no. And then some movies just did better for me than the others, right? But it's that issue for the corporate media entities. They have to figure out, if the movies are going into the theaters, you get the best chance of getting some real money for it on somebody to go watch for one showing. Meanwhile, you put it on streaming and people can watch it as many times as they want, and they don't care if it's mid. Because when people are watching TV at home, they're not necessarily putting the priority of sitting down, putting down popcorn, and watching a movie. Like, they're not doing it like they used to. Remember that. You're not watching movies the same way at home because people are also on their phones. They're doing other things. They could stop, go take a leak. Like, they're not sitting there to watch a movie like you do the experience at a movie theater. Not even close. So the attention span, you just can't put a budget into a movie and expect people to go see it. It's got to be good. But it's obvious that there are some movies that are out there that people will go watch, out of their way to watch, and they'll make money. Remember that. You can do the right movies, big budget, and you make a lot of money off of them. You can. But it's got to be the right projects. So when you look at Barbie, and also the one I would put in the same way as well is Oppenheimer. It's another example of a movie that just went out there, it kicked ass, and almost about to break $1 billion. The production budget, $100 million. I mean, look at that. $100 million budget and about to break $1 billion. Sound of Freedom. $250 million worldwide take-in on $14 million. And as we said, Barbie is an example of the top big grossing movie, a big blockbuster movie in a summer, $1.4 billion and $151 million budget. That tells you everything. Smarter movies, better done movies. Like, okay, Barbie, it was a very unique thing. The marketing, the whole planning of it, the hype. The same for Oppenheimer. You put so much hype behind those movies that you had to go watch it. Mario Brothers, also a lot of hype in those movies, a lot of marketing in those movies. So Mario Brothers also doing very well this year. And $1.3 billion, production budget, $100 billion. Animated, by the way. Excellent work. Of the movies that you're seeing out here, you see the biggest difference in that. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy is the one movie that's left over still of that Marvel universe that still holds up. $845 million, $250 million budget. That's it. But, people are also saying the fact that, when they did make Guardians of the Galaxy, it was still done where, some excuses have been out there about the pandemic and the rushing of CGI and special effects. Yeah, I get that part. Part of that is true. But he did a good job of sort of rushing to this movie. The CGI didn't look bad. It was that movie still holds up compared to the other two, which was good. But then you have other things that go on that people are just kind of upset about. And it was a bigger change in the story. You can get movies out there. Listen, we had a thriller suspense movie. We had a number of action movies and a comedy and a drama that made top 10 grossing this year in the movie theater. So there's a variety of movies you could do. Now, maybe not the horror movies are doing the biggest money right now, but there's some that obviously do. But still, it's like people will still go to the movies, and more movies to be brought out to the forefront again. We need to expect that, because that was one of the biggest differences we see now. The hesitancy of the major movie studios backed up with their TV, their network, their cable, their linear content, and now their streaming services. And the money and the resources they're willing to put into theaters. But they get the big bucks if they do it done right. And they're not. And they're making mistakes. And next year, are they going to do any better? Well, we can find out about that. Now, they are going to have a plethora of widescreen releases that are going to be going out next year, which shouldn't be the problem like it was before. Okay? Like, we even have widescreen releases starting on January 5th. And things get started pretty quickly. We start seeing movies that start coming in right quickly, and it's going to be not an issue. I mean, just, okay, let's get these movies back out there. Let's get people to watch them. Hell, even Disney's doing a thing where some of the movies that did not make it out during pandemic, they're going to re-release them to widescreen to see what it does. Try to get that hype again. But all the major studios, they're all putting out movies next year. Are they going to be really good? I don't know. But they're going to try. They're going to do the best that they can. And are some major movies coming out next year? Yeah, there's some interesting ones. Bob Marley's movie One Love. That's one that's been promoted for a long time. Coming up on February 14th. Madam Web will be out on that night also. Valentine's Day. Among other movies, you got, let's see here, Crunchyroll, the Demon Slayer anime series. They're going to put a big feature film out. Dune Part 2 is March 1st. So these are the big movies coming out next year. Kung Fu Panda 4, March 8th. I'm looking at Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, March 29th. That should be a big deal. The First Omen, April 5th. Godzilla vs. Kong, New Empire, April 12th. Civil War, April 26th. The Fall Guy, May 3rd. Let's see here. Furiosa, May 24th. I already saw the promos for that. That looks great. Ballerina, the John Wick spin-off series, a movie, June 7th. The Bad Boy sequel is scheduled for June 14th. The Quiet Place on June 28th. Despicable Me 4 on July 3rd. Deadpool 3, July 26th. Alien Romulus, August 16th. So Alien's coming back with their films once again. Beetlejuice 2, September 6th. Transformers 1, September 13th. Joker, Folie à Deux, October 4th. And then Karate Kid, December 13th. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, December 20th. Mufasa the Lion King, December 20th. And other movies are going to be brought back in as well. Another Den of Thieves. I'm looking forward to that. The Legally Blonde 3. They're going to remake the movie Salem's Lot. Sesame Street is going to have a movie. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out next year. Star Trek 4, among other things. And they have other things out here. Like, it's incredible. So there's a lot here to go and look at. Let's see what they do. How well they do anyway as well. But I noticed one thing on here. Not a lot of superhero movies in this list. Which is good. Gladiator 2 also November 22nd. Wicked Part 1, November 27th. There's a lot coming up. I mean, there's going to be more that's going to be added. We'll find out what they are soon enough. So we have covered television. We've covered movies. Now let's move on to music and radio. Country had a very good year on the pop charts on those. There's a story from Spotify that they have had double-digit growth for demand of Latin music over the past decade. Spotify worldwide listenership for Latin music is up 986% in the last 10 years. So Latin music, reggaeton, regional Mexican. Regional Mexican obviously had a very big year and a big difference for them overall, which is good. So music was fun. Music was great. Taylor Swift controlled everything when it came to music. She was the biggest star, all there is to it. Among other things, music is doing what they're doing, right? It still has a part where, there's a relevance to it. And podcasting continues to do pretty well for the most part. I haven't really looked at a whole lot of the year-end stuff that's going on for radio and what it's been doing so far. But, things are doing just fine so far. And when I look at radio, well, they just keep deciding to do like changes what they're doing right now. It's bad. Like everybody's kind of missing out so far. I don't know what else to do. And talk about all the issues with radio when it comes to Odyssey, the radio company that's also dealing with issues in debt. They keep missing interest payments. And, they don't have a way to go and get rid of their $2 billion of debt. When it comes to iHeartRadio and have their issues with, still holding on to $6 billion in debt, they really can't cut down much to it. And all their changes that they're doing right now, not much else is there either. Radio expects to get some more money when it comes to political ads next year because that's going to be coming in soon. They expect that. But other than that, music and radio are just kind of moving along. We did have some increases in pricing, some changes when it comes to SiriusXM, what they're doing right now so far. Some of the issues that they're making, they're changing things right now, right? When it came to music, Rolling Stone put about a good story that talked about the year in music data, that while Taylor Swift had four of the top 10 most consumed albums of the year, 30 songs made the year-end Hot 100 of the Billboard. It's another thing that's got to be considered as well in all the changes that are going on. But most importantly, we talked about it extensively on the program. Radio has done nothing to take advantage of trying to be a part of new music discovery, of doing anything that can help further and amplify, say, podcasting. No, none of that. Not at all. Among other things that happened besides the Taylor Swift story, country streaming revolution is finally here. It boomed. You had big culture war songs. Jason Aldean's Tried That in a Small Town. Oliver Anthony's Richmond, North of Richmond. And songs were being out in droves. But that's mostly on the iTunes chart. And then a lot of artists coming in country. The landmark surge. Morgan Wallen was all over the chart all year long. Jelly Roll, Luke Combs, Bailey Zimmerman, and Zach Bryan. I mean, a lot of great music this year on the countryside. For R&B, SZA was doing well with SOS. She had 2.4 billion streams for her album. K-pop still holding on to the charts without BTS, because some of the BTS members are out there and doing really well. But New Jeans and Cupid, it's being 50-50, and other artists came out and made a big change right there. Latin Star Power is also continuing to go along. Peso Pluma did really good this year. Bad Bunny also did well this year. Carol G, among others. Hip hop, not so much. Your top artists this year for that side: Ice Spice, Sexy Red, and Central C. Some bubbling stars. They're hoping to push the genre forward, but 2023, the number of hip hop records in the top 200 albums this year dropped 17%. The biggest albums of the year in hip hop were Travis Scott's Utopia, did not do well. Metro Boomin's Heroes and Villains, Drake and 21 Savage's Her Loss, and Drake's solo for All the Dogs. That's it. Came to the top 15 overall this year. So music is definitely changing. Country is still big. Latin music is very big. Pop taking a dive, and hip hop taking a bigger dive overall. And like I said, radio, no answers into getting themselves back into the space. They just want to just stay in the environment of irrelevance. For what? Radio is not the place where you go and find new talent and bring them up to the forefront. Not at all. Because they're not allowed to go there. Because the talent doesn't want to go there. You want to get serviceable talent that'll just come on and, we'll just be, really give them, they're going to come on in and not have to charge, or not have to pay them that much for anything. Yeah, they're doing that. But not much else. So all these changes are going on. And it's incredibly amazing that radio in the last 5 years has failed to do anything significant. Just continue to erode. They can't make money on advertising. See, the thing is, for radio companies, you're not making any money on advertising. You're not changing the way advertising is being done. You're not trying to change delivery of advertising. Nothing like that. You're looking at your other forms of streaming, right? Oh, so the streaming version of the radio station is a secondary, it's a parallel to the FM AM dial. That's stupid. Plus, you want to go ahead and put your clusters together and just charge like that. Like, there's no individuality, nothing significant, nothing creative, nothing, you're not showing value to your stations. You're just showing these are commodities, and we'll put your ads up on these as commodities. But not with original, local, well-produced commercials. No, you're taking all these make good ads from your corporation and from all these networks that you have to go and service with syndicated programming. That's why radio is so bad. And for radio to have it that hard, to tell me that radio cannot be better, you can't. Well, the easiest thing to program, you program music, you program radio. But music, one of the things that's going to happen, I'm telling you, and I'm waiting for the day. I have asked for the implosion of these big radio companies, iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia, and Odyssey. I hope they go ahead and go by the wayside. I want to see them implode. And the way they're going to implode now, I've been waiting for that plan, waiting for that day. George Michael song. Good song, by the way. I'm waiting for the day when we see the eventual change of royalties, where BMI and ASCAP are going to change the pricing for royalties coming up. And then on top of that, we're going to see a change as well of the American Music Fairness Act. Because that's all going to keep coming. Just wait and see. If the radio stations don't realize it, they could lose that war, right? Just keep in mind of that. That could very well change real soon. In Europe, it's happening. Same thing in the U.S. It could all be coming soon. And I'm hoping for that day. Waiting for that day. Because, with certain big media companies, when it comes to music is going to have to change. The labels are going to have to go and figure out a new way to go and do their business to keep themselves relevant in the age of streaming, when there are so many other artists that can come on independently and put music up there and take away from their main source of getting mass appeal listenership, right? I mean, for TV and movies, they're still doing the thing where, they got to figure out where their bread is buttered. That they got to make their traditional outlets relevant. They have to now they're going to have to manage both linear and digital better. They got to realize that, okay, one helps out the other. And you have to be able to put parameters in place so you can get money coming in from subscribers, from advertisers, from whatever you can. You got to figure out a new way to do it. And maybe they'll figure that out. But radio is the one part where it's the one medium that has been neglected, has been misaligned. And part of it is because, well, people not worrying about so much about radio because they can think about podcasting and they can listen to podcasts or audiobooks as opposed to listen to radio. Radio is still a very important medium. And even if you do lose AM, which is not going to happen because it's not going to be allowed, but FM radio can still be here, HD radio can still be here, and the streaming of those radio stations can also be around. But they got to do better. And the only way it's going to happen is that the iHeartMedia and Odysseys of the world implode because they have to succumb to the fact that they can't pay the royalties for songwriters and the artists. And when the royalties become too much for them to pay, they're not going to hold on to these stations. They're going to start unloading them. And then local broadcasters will come in. And then another way for broadcasters to come into the limelight, right? Some of those that don't want to have to worry about doing a podcast, they can just go on and do it on a radio station, right? Mass appeal. Get an audience out there to listen in. And live, in real time. And you can multi-platform it. Think about that and what you can really do with it. It's one of those things that I'm hoping for. I want overall broadcasting to be something that is going to be still a wonderful thing, right? I want something where that we can have a space for mainstream, big media content. Of course, there always has to be a place for that. Mass consumption. And there also has to be the room for the smaller broadcasters or for the other independent creative content out there to break through the barrier and cross over into the mainstream. That has to be made a place of once again. So an embracing of what's out there in terms of the internet and digital and say, you know what? Maybe we can work with some of these other people out there that are doing content and making great quality content. By the way, in the last 5 years, look at the quality of the content we have as well. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Instagram. You can watch it on TikTok. You can watch it on Rumble. You can watch it on wherever, Twitter. There are other places you can watch content, and it's very well produced, right? Big media has to figure out a new mousetrap. They need to go ahead and evolve their model. Their business model needs to be better run. Okay? Same thing for music. TV and movies all go with what broadcasters doing, these big media companies and their studios and all the other entities that go within it. And as for radio, we need the industry to implode. The biggest holders of debt and the biggest holders of radio stations being held hostage, basically, they need to implode. So I support Music First and the American Music Fairness Act. And I support that BMI and ASCAP will now be able to go ahead and separately charge more for the royalties for songwriters, for artists, for, publishers, all of it. I want it to be done. I want radio to start paying. And when these big companies can't handle it, the private equity groups, they're going to realize they can't keep making money off this. They're going to have to unload. And they will. I'm hoping for it. So thank you for listening to this 5th anniversary of the Broadcasters Podcast episode 311 of the program. I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing this program. I don't want to stop doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. I enjoy it too much. End of the year, hey, as a broadcaster, I don't like those other broadcasters that just take time off in the holidays. No. Not me. I want to keep going. I want to keep working. That's what I do. I'm in the media business. We do this as a badge of honor. So I'm going to keep doing like that. It's the way I want it. KikaPodcasts.com is where you find all of my content. Also, look for Kika Podcasts on YouTube and on all social media. LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, all that. And we'll come back, start 2024, fresh and new, with another Broadcasters Podcast. And until then, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.